For the first time in American history, we may be looking at FBI director who pleaded the Fifth to avoid incriminating himself before a grand jury. Let that sink in. The person who would be responsible for demanding truth from others refused to give it under oath. What does that mean for the FBI? What does that mean for our democracy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, when Mr. Booker was asking you questions in his first round, you said, Senator, the grand jury testimony is available to you. I encourage you to make it public. You also later said, or previously to Mr. Booker said, get my grand jury testimony. I asked the Department of Justice to make it public. I asked the Department of Justice to make it public. Do you stand by that testimony?
If that's what I said.
So you asked the Justice Department to make your grand jury testimony public?
At the time of my appearance in the grand jury.
Yeah. And who did you ask to do that?
The lawyers.
Mr. Chairman, since the witness has said that he encourages this testimony to be public, that he in fact asked the Justice Department to make it public, I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, if you and the ranking member would be willing to write to the court acknowledging the witness has asked for this to be public, supporting it being made public. I can't imagine there's a court in the land that would say no to a bipartisan request like that.
I won't tell you. Let me say something. I'm not going to take this out of your time. It's not directly answering your question, but I think it'd be significant what Richard Grinnell put on X. I testified in front of Jack Smith's grand jury, the Justice Department, and Jack Smith's prosecutor told me directly that I could not talk about my testimony or risk legal actions. Then he goes on to say that certain senators I won't mention here should, as those lawyers, ask those lawyers why they instructed witnesses this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd welcome the chance to have Mr. Grinnell testify under oath as opposed to on X. But nevertheless, what I would ask, given that this witness has said he made the request, this witness has said he would like us to read the testimony, I would ask if you and Mr. Durbin would be, Senator Durbin would be willing to make that request of the court.
I wouldn't answer your question without get all the background I need, considering the conversation between you two. I couldn't make that judgment now.
Yeah, I appreciate your consideration, Mr. Chairman. And the reason why I think it's so important is let's remind ourselves what those documents were in Mar-a-Lago. According to the indictment, the classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. So, testimony that goes to the care or lack of care, the truthfulness or lack of truthfulness of Mr. Patel would be directly relevant to whether he should be confirmed as FBI director, and those records are there for the asking. No court's going to turn us down. Mr. Patel may be, I don't know, but he may be the first nominee for FBI director in history who felt it necessary to plead the Fifth, to say that he wouldn't testify to a grand jury because it might incriminate him. Maybe the first nominee for FBI director ever to feel the necessity of pleading the Fifth. Shouldn't we ask for that testimony when the witness himself says he would encourage it? Finally, I would just say, we need to think about where we are in this moment. We have a new president. He's fired prosecutors who investigated him. He's investigating other prosecutors, or his Department of Justice is. He's fired inspector generals who might hold him accountable. And this is just the start. And as FBI director nominee, he's chosen someone whose primary qualification, in my view, is his willingness to say yes when everyone else would say no to whatever the president wanted, to say whatever he wanted, to do whatever he wanted. That's why he is sitting here. I mean, look at the people who held that job before Mr. Patel, the stature of the people that held that job, the qualifications of the people that held that job. And how can any of us think that his background, his qualifications hold a candle to the people who went before him? How did we get here? where we are defending a nominee like this, who makes songs with convicts who attack law enforcement. How did we get here? And where are we going? History is littered with democracies that lost their freedoms and didn't notice it while it was happening.
Your time's
Let's
up.
not be one of them.
Your time's up.
When Senator Adam Schiff questioned Kash Patel, he raised an issue that strikes at the very core of public trust in law enforcement: credibility under oath. Schiff reminded the committee that Patel may be the first nominee for FBI director in history who felt the need to plead the Fifth Amendment before a grand jury. Think about that. The job of FBI director requires someone who demands truth from others, yet Patel himself refused to answer questions under penalty of perjury because it might incriminate him. That contradiction is staggering. Schiff pointed out that Patel himself said he encouraged the Justice Department to release his grand jury testimony, even claiming he asked them to do so. If that's the case, Schiff argued, then the Senate should formally request that testimony from the court. After all, the stakes couldn't be higher. Those documents at the center of the Mar-a-Lago indictment weren't old memos or misfiled letters. They reportedly contained nuclear secrets, defense capabilities, military vulnerabilities, and potential retaliatory plans. Sensitive information like that in the wrong hands could endanger lives and national security. Shouldn't senators have access to Patel's testimony about such critical matters before voting on whether he should run the FBI? This moment also reflects something larger. Schiff warned that we are in a dangerous new phase of American politics. A president who has fired prosecutors investigating him, a president who dismisses inspector generals tasked with oversight, is now pushing a nominee whose chief qualification, in Schiff's words, is his willingness to say yes to whatever the president wants. That willingness to bend to political power rather than uphold the Constitution is not a small concern. It's the very thing that corrodes democracy from within. Patel's background makes this even more jarring. Schiff contrasted Patel's record with the stature of those who have led the FBI before him, people with long careers in law enforcement or national security whose qualifications were beyond dispute. By comparison, Patel's resume looks thinner, more political, and his public statements, whether attacking law enforcement officers from January 6th, promoting conspiracies, or labeling officials deep state, only deepen doubts. Schiff's words weren't just about Patel as an individual, they were about the direction of the country. Democracies don't collapse overnight. They erode bit by bit when institutions meant to be neutral become tools of political loyalty. And yet, there was a counterpoint in the hearing. A letter from the parents of Kayla Mueller, the American aid worker kidnapped and killed by ISIS, praised Patel for his compassion and his role in the mission that took down ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Their testimony paints Patel as a man capable of dedication and courage in service of others. That contrast between Schiff's warning of political loyalty over truth and the Mueller family's praise of Patel's humanity illustrates just how complex this moment is. But here's the real question for viewers to grapple with. Does a past act of service outweigh present concerns about truth, accountability, and political capture of the FBI? Should the head of the nation's premier law enforcement agency be someone who once declined to testify truthfully under oath, or someone who places loyalty to a political figure above loyalty to the Constitution? These are not abstract debates. They determine whether the FBI can remain an institution that Americans trust to safeguard democracy, or whether it becomes another battleground for partisan power. History, Schiff reminded the Senate, is full of democracies that slipped away without their citizens realizing it until it was too late. The warning is clear. We can't take institutions for granted. The people chosen to lead them matter. Their credibility matters. Their loyalty to the law matters. And in this moment, every senator and every citizen watching has to ask whether Kash Patel represents the kind of leadership the FBI requires, or whether confirming him would be one more step down a road we may not be able to turn back from. So as this nomination moves forward, don't just watch it like another Washington drama. Ask yourself, what kind of leadership do we demand in the FBI? Do we want truth, independence, and accountability, or political obedience dressed up as law enforcement? The answer to that question will shape not just the FBI, but the future of American democracy. If you want to keep unpacking these hearings, understand the bigger stakes behind the sound bites, and hold leaders accountable, subscribe, share this video, and add your voice in the comments. Democracies survive only when citizens are paying attention. Let's make sure we are.